Welcome to NAGLREP Success, a podcast series featuring the talents of LGBT real estate agents and allies who inspire the LGBT community. I'm your host, David Cerroti. Today's edition is one that is very exciting, as we will be joined by one of the emerging leaders in the LGBT community, and that is Jonathan Lovitz, who is the Senior Vice President at the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, which we all know as NGLCC. Jonathan, how you doing?
Oh, I'm overjoyed to join you. Thank you so much for having me and your kind words and for all the great work NAGLREP does.
Well, we have enjoyed getting to know you at NAGLREP and your relationship with the organization. And before we really get into NGLCC and the work you are doing around the country, I thought it would be interesting to talk on your career starting as a broadcaster.
I came to New York as a performer on Broadway. Actually, I was a singer and dancer, but also managed to pick up a degree in communications at the University of Florida, but managed to be one of that 1% of people who managed to get a job in the arts right out of school. So I toured around the country for a few years, came to New York, worked on stage, transitioned to television and film, and in the course of that started doing some broadcasting and news reporting work. And I never really left that world. I got to do some great work with Logo, with NBC, and a few other networks, talking about LGBT issues. And at that time, somewhere around 2009-10, there weren't a ton of out LGBT young people on television yet. So I was very fortunate to be asked by a lot of groups like the Human Rights Campaign, GLAAD, the Trevor Project, Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, causes that I've always known about and cared about, to come be involved as a speaker and fundraiser, and particularly working with LGBT youth in high school and in colleges, getting them fired up about the issues and getting involved. And that's how, once upon a time, I met the NGLCC when they invited me to come speak at their 10th anniversary national dinner. And when the stars aligned just right, I became their original Vice President of External Affairs and the Executive Director of the New York office and chamber. I'm now the Senior Vice President overseeing media and communications, public policy and advocacy, and particularly exciting are the strategic partnerships with great groups like NAGLREP. It's been a wild journey, and I am truly grateful, as I get to say often, that my day job and my gay job are the same thing. I know how fortunate I am to have a platform to be able to help our community and advance issues, and at the risk of a good Hamilton reference and cliche now, to be in the room where it happens and to be able to work with legislators to enact policies that make our businesses and our community stronger. So I'm having the time of my life, and I just can't wait to get more involved with the great work that NAGLREP does.
Did your background on stage and the comfort you have being in front of people that also translates in front of a TV camera, how has that helped you in engaging with so many different groups?
You know, I could not do the work that I do without that. And in fact, I have so many friends and colleagues that are communications directors or press officers for representatives on the Hill, folks that you've seen on television regularly, and we all share a common background of having been theater kids or performers in some way. And those skills of learning how to read an audience, how to make people connect emotionally to the things that we need them to be able to advance our mission, they're really hard skills to teach. You either have them or you don't. And I'm really fortunate for all those years I had performing that make me a better communicator and advocate now. And then to have been thrown so young into sort of the world of professional LGBT advocacy, I've learned from the best. I've gotten to work closely with all the great CEOs and executive directors of the various organizations, and it's just been so fulfilling for me. And I'm thrilled also that I get to work at so many universities teaching the next generation of advocates and lobbyists and activists how to use their voice to care for whatever issue it is that gets them out of bed in the morning.
Were you already out when you hit Broadway or the TV work you did?
I was really fortunate. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, and it's a wonderful place to be an LGBT young person. And because of how particularly easy it was for me to come out around 16, I find such a personal commitment to helping LGBT youth because I know how unusually uneventful my coming out experience was and how abnormal that is when you hear about how difficult it can be for so many young people out there. I was very fortunate. I grew up in the Broward County school system, which was the first in the country to enact LGBT student protections of any kind. So I'm a real beneficiary of those non-discrimination protections for young people, and I think that's why it's such an important part of the work I do now.
Has it been hard for you to wrap your head around the idea that we actually do need an Equality Act in this country to tell people to do the right thing and treat others with the dignity and respect they always deserve?
You'd like to think that as we're in 2019, approaching 2020, that we'd be so far beyond the need for these issues. But at the same time, as we fight for the Equality Act and we fight state by state for non-discrimination protections and economic opportunities and basic dignity and justice for our community, it's also galvanizing because I think what we've seen in just the last few years, more than I can remember in decades, is a coming together of communities, a recognition that LGBT people who are also women and people of color and people with disabilities and veterans and people with pre-existing conditions and all of the other communities who have been under attack, we're standing in solidarity like never before. I mean, just look at the fact that the Equality Act was backed by the Congressional Black Caucus and the NAACP and organizations who have said, we've seen this kind of attack on our community before, and we stand in solidarity with LGBTQ Americans, as we know they stand with us. It's easy to get disheartened, but I think it's even easier to look sort of between the lines and find inspiration and strength in such power that's being derived from the fight right now, that people want to keep pushing, and we will get to full equality in this country. We've come too far, and as I recently heard at a gala, I heard a great executive director say that we've come this far only to go further. And I think that that's exactly where we are in our movement right now.
And in your role, you're truly seeing the business community be supportive and engaged every day.
Every single day. I mean, it is one of the most celebrated and recognized tenets of the business community right now that diversity is good for business, period. And even in some of the most conservative cities and states where I've had to go advocate for economic inclusion, I've met with legislators to say, I'm still really torn up and on the fence about understanding this LGBTQ thing, but I can't ignore the power and strength of this community and its resilience, and we'll find some common ground somehow. And often it's business that can help find that common ground. Everyone wants our economy to succeed. And in the United States, if there are, we're an estimated between 6 and 10% of the population, that's a tremendous amount of employees and workers and voters and donors and people who make the system work. And so LGBT people just can't be excluded if this country and this economy is ever going to move forward. And thankfully, we have the backing of hundreds of corporations who have signed on to first marriage equality and now the Equality Act and other forms of legislation all over the country to make sure that our businesses and our communities are backed up with their strengths, and they're really putting action behind those words. They are pulling out of cities and states that are anti-LGBT or anti-woman or anti-any community. They are actively throwing money behind these movements to increase our rights and our inclusion. So it's an exciting time, and it's wonderful to see business lead, because these brands, these corporations have spent decades earning our trust as an LGBT community and as Americans, and now we're cashing in some of those chips to advance our rights, and it's amazing how far it's moving.
When you talk about these quote-unquote anti-groups, anti-states, anti-leadership, anti-whoever it is, do you see an opportunity or what drives them to change their position with your talk track?
I do. Case in point, the first ever state to include LGBT businesses in state contracts, and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in economic opportunities that we've never had before, was Massachusetts under a Republican governor. And so, one of my favorite things to say is if a Republican governor can do this, there's nothing stopping any legislator from doing this. So looking at the dollars and cents of inclusion is one way to get people to find some basic understanding of why this is so important. And then along the way, as they start collaborating and working with our community, they discover the subtle changes to hearts and minds that happen along the way. I think about our 2018 Business of the Year, which is a trans woman-owned construction company in Chicago. And this a phrase that I can't imagine too many people have heard before. And their company does tens of millions of dollars in business with corporations and with public sector agencies building roads and highways. And they're often the first trans person that many of these construction workers and contractors have ever met before. And they're just so impressed by how hard Jackie and her company works and how important diversity and inclusion is to their mission and to their bottom line that in the course of doing great work together, they also discover how much more connected as people we all are. And it's that change in hearts and minds and attitudes that moves culture forward and then moves society and laws forward.
You really are getting involved with the grassroots movement.
Yeah, it's where the action is. It's neighbors talking to neighbors about why inclusion matters. It's local businesses talking to their elected officials and city council members and mayors saying, look, our city is losing business because we have an LGBT bathroom bill, or we've got a, heinous discrimination policy on the books. We're losing out to the cities who have said we welcome everyone into contracting and we welcome conferences that celebrate diversity. So it's getting people to speak about what diversity and inclusion means to their personal lives, how they can, when they're free to be themselves, regardless of however they identify, that lead weight that comes with having to hide or pass or however you want to phrase it, frees them to be their best self and bring their best self to their life, to their family, to their community, to their work. So talking about things on the most local level is where the most action comes from. And that's why we're seeing such success with our network of more than 50 local chambers across the country. There is a place for an LGBT and allied business owner to connect with like-minded people just about everywhere you travel in this country. And what we're seeing is such a commitment from local businesses, local leaders, that we need to establish dialogue and connectivity between our communities, between those who are with us and those who maybe aren't, to find what's best for our economy and what's best for our people. And that's just simply a sense of understanding that we are stronger and more prosperous, recognizing one another as equals.
Why did you undergo a name change last year from NGLCC to National LGBT Chamber of Commerce?
So the NGLCC has always had the same acronym for the last 18 years, but when we began in 2002 as the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, that was the nomenclature that was being used at the time, similarly with the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force and other organizations. But as our mission and our scope evolved, we've always served the entire LGBTQI community around the world. And yet that wasn't reflected in our name and in our documentation and in our presentation. And it was time. And in fact, as we're finding just in all of our work around the country, especially in trying to get LGBT businesses included in the public sector, you have to say our name. What we're asking for is to be identified somewhere in a checkbox as LGBTQ. Same with our organization name. We wanted to show the world that this entire community is welcome here. and that we have always served you, and now we want you to see yourself represented in our name and in our mission. And in fact, just looking at our new trans task force, which has been in the process of finding and certifying more trans-owned businesses in America, just by calling that out as an initiative, we have had an over 420% increase in 1 year of the number of trans businesses that we have certified in the country, and we are barely scratching the surface of what we can do there. Our name change is simply a call out to the community that we see you, we hear you, and we're here for you.
Jonathan, we're thrilled to announce on this podcast that you will be headlining at our 6th annual NAGLREP National LGBT Real Estate Conference, which will be held in one of America's favorite resorts, Palm Springs, on October 1st through the 3rd. It will truly be a star-studded affair. We're expecting a complete sellout, along with you and so many others from the LGBT community. I know you're excited to spend a few days with your friends Dennis and Judy Shepard, who have just really redefined the LGBT movement with their work with the Shepard Foundation. Can you tell us about Dennis and Judy and what we might expect to hear from them when they join us in Palm Springs?
Absolutely. As NGLCC's media guy, I couldn't be more proud that we're making breaking news here together, David. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be joining you. This conference has been on my radar. It's something I've wanted to be at for so long, and I'm thrilled the stars aligned. And we're also thrilled to have NAGLREP represented at the NGLCC conference in Tampa, Florida, August 13 and 16. So we're just so excited for this collaboration and all that we're going to do together to help our industries grow. And I, as you said, Dennis and Judy are not just dear friends of me personally, but of the NGLCC and really of the movement. So many people think of them as the mom and dad of the modern LGBT movement, because what the unfortunate events that happened to their beautiful son Matthew really did change the shape of LGBT advocacy in the 90s and going forwards. They are going to talk about the amazing work that the Matthew Shepard Foundation does to change hearts and minds all over the world through powerful storytelling, through helping people understand that we are so much more alike than we are different, that intolerance and hate has no place in a modern society. And in fact, I'm sure we'll be talking about the collaboration that we have with them in creating the NGLCC Global Matthew Shepard Fellowship, because Matthew had wanted to go into the foreign service and serve the country as a diplomat, taking LGBT storytelling all over the world. And to honor that legacy, we created a fellowship in our global program, which is now working to increase LGBT rights and economic opportunity in over 15 countries around the world. We've named a scholarship in his honor so that more young people will be able to follow Matt's dream. And so we couldn't be happier to be working with them and with NAGLREP, and thrilled that we'll all be together, especially in this historic Stonewall 50 and World Pride year in the United States. It's just such an exciting time for our movement.
Make sure you register for the conference now at naglrep.com. That's NAGLREP.com. And Jonathan, you've talked about the relationship between the NGLCC and NAGLREP. Why is it so important that the two groups unite with a common cause?
Well, NAGLREP has really done something profound in establishing a place for real estate professionals and those who support them and work with them in their industries to galvanize the community around the importance of visibility in the marketplace, around fighting for the protections that enable a strong economy and a strong housing market. It's amazing to see the work that NAGLREP has done in supporting the Equality Act and creating pathways to new business for our community. The collaboration between NAGLREP chapters and members and our local affiliates is so powerful. We have so many members of the real estate and housing and development communities in our local chambers all over the country who are trusted go-to leaders for helping people relocate, for helping people establish a new business, establish a new home and a new life. because they know the intricacies of being out in a new city or a new town, and how we want to make sure that, as we call it, the pink dollar is spent supporting our family and our community. And so many of these real estate professionals and the members of NAGLREP and NGLCC local affiliates are some of the most visible people in the community. And when people know that they're out members of the LGBT community, that's powerful visual representation that we are a part of our local communities. And in the case of people who work in housing and real estate, you are literally building the communities that our LGBT family will thrive in. So it's a natural fit that as an organization that does so much to drive awareness and create business in the housing and real estate market, that there's strong collaboration with our local chambers, who are the trusted go-to voice for business and for making those referrals to the community members that you can trust to have your back and be good stewards of your relationship with your new community.
Jonathan, do you see a cross-pollination of those who love advocacy versus those who are more interested in driving business growth for their careers?
Advocacy is such a personal spectrum that we all live on. You know, some people are there, can be seen every weekend volunteering and marching and fundraising. Others, their form of advocacy is simply being a success story and a role model in our community, and both are equally as powerful and necessary for the movement to continue. So many NAGLREP members that I've met are active in their local community, but almost more so as visible representations of success, that they built businesses, that they are the go-to person in their firm or their local office, that they are creating a new ecosystem for opportunity by reminding people of how important inclusive and diverse communities are to attracting the best and brightest talent to our businesses, who are all going to need homes and apartments to live in. So whether you are, leading the parade down Main Street on Pride, or simply being an out leader at your local firm, or anything in between, you are advancing our cause by showing that being out and being successful in 2019 no longer has to be mutually exclusive.
Jonathan, how would we engage locally to take advantage of the NGLCC opportunities?
Each one of our more than 50 affiliate chambers around the country has a business directory. So it's a great way to get your firm or your real estate office, or even just your personal business, listed and recognized as someone that can be trusted in the local community. The number one thing is showing up. As I say all the time when I meet with certified business owners, you do not get what you do not ask for. If you want to be involved in your local community, seek out your local chamber and figure out ways to be visible, be present, and be involved. In fact, I think about the executive committee of the NGLCC New York chapter that I had the privilege of being the director of for a few years. One of the members of our volunteer board is a relocation and real estate specialist, and she worked every event, getting to know every member and being trusted as someone that you could go to with your real estate questions for your personal life or your business. And that's a great way to leverage the connected power of our community, because we know that so much of real estate is a referral business. So you want to be known as someone that can be counted on and trusted in our community. And for anyone looking to get involved with a local chamber anywhere near them, check out nglcc.org. You'll see an affiliate chamber tab at the top of the website. It'll point you in the right direction, and our team is always happy to help get you introduced and connected so that you can get the most out of it.
How is NGLCC locally different from a stereotypical or traditional chamber of commerce?
The name might be a little misleading, that we are just a group of cisgender straight white men sitting around smoking cigars and talking about our thriving businesses. These are really active, mobilized networks who are doing everything from business education to financial literacy to major networking events to huge guest speakers from mayors and governors and working with local supply chain operators to get you, the LGBT business owner, more opportunities than ever before. So we're real, it's not just a business card exchange. This is a real working relationship, and you get as much out of it as you put into it. And the same is true at the national level. So to help people understand that NGLCC nationally is the organization that can certify your business or your firm as being LGBT owned. And we work with our network of local affiliate partners to help amplify your opportunities at the hyper-local level, especially if you've got corporate headquarters nearby who may be looking to directly contract with a certified minority-owned business. So at any level of where your business is or at any scale that you hope to aspire to, there is a place on the NGLCC spectrum, both nationally and locally for you. And you've got a ton of people eager to help you grow your business in any way that you want to.
And we are absolutely thrilled that you'll be joining us in Palm Springs to share so much more with us about the benefits of the Chamber, talking more about the LGBTQ movement, where we're going with the Equality Act. There's so much great stuff out there for you to share and to network with all of us. We're looking forward to it. Obviously, Palm Springs in October can't be better. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great talking to you.
It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I can't wait to meet all the listeners at the NAGLREP Conference. It's going to be terrific. Thanks for all the great work you do. You're making America stronger and a better place to live, literally.
This has been NAGLREP Success. Until next time, I'm David Cerroti.